Welcome to Season 2 of Difference Talks, brought to you by the LaBov Marketing, Communications, and Training Team. Our guests are inspiring people who share their stories of brand differentiation. Based on our book, The Power of Differentiation, our goal is to inspire 1 million people with the message that winning hearts and minds are the first step in growing market share. Now, on with the show.
Welcome, everybody, to Difference Talks. I'm Barry LaBov. I'm CEO and founder of LaBov Marketing, Communication, and Training, and the author of The Power of Differentiation. I have good friend Terry Whalin here. He's worked with authors. He's an author himself. He wrote a really fantastic biography on Billy Graham, among other tremendous individuals. We're going to have a talk today about something that's important to many of the people in our audience, which is, they'd like to write a book. How tough is it really to do it? What has Terry learned through these years of working with authors and being one himself? So, Terry, I'm going to welcome you to the show. Give us a little bit of your background.
My first book was published in 1992 as a little children's book that I did. Called When I Grow Up, I Can Go Anywhere for Jesus. That sort of launched me, but since then I've written all kinds of books. I've written more than 60 books for traditional publishers. And then a number of years ago, about 15, 16 years ago, I started working at a publishing house. And so I've worked over on that side as well of working with different authors on their books and learned a lot in that process.
So I've been able to work on a number of books myself. I just published The Power of Differentiation, and prior to that wrote a dozen business parables, short books, kind of cute little stories on business topics. It's a very interesting challenge when you're writing a book. I also believe it's a bigger challenge once you're done writing the book, because then there's editing, and then there is the responsibility to really own it further, meaning you have to promote it. You have to be out there. Can you describe to the audience what really entails a successful book and launch?
I guess my wake-up call in that whole area of the promotion part happened in 2007. I was living in Arizona. I had a little literary agent back then, and Mark Victor Hansen, the co-author on Chicken Soup for the Soul, invited me to come out to Los Angeles. He had this big event called Mega Book Marketing University. And so I went out there. I took pitches from a bunch of people throughout the conference, but I also sat there with over 400 people and listened to the different speakers. Now, at that point in my life, I'd written about 50 books for traditional publishers. A couple of them had paid me six-figure advances. But when you write for traditional publishers, usually once a year, but maybe quarterly, they send you a financial statement about how your books are doing. All of my books back then were in the minus category. I wasn't making any money on my books. I must have been doing something wrong. So as I sat there and listened to all these people, it's almost like I woke up, because I understood how little I was personally doing to be telling people about my book. Sure, I had a terrywhalin.com website, but I wasn't doing almost anything else in order to be able to telling people about my book. One of the speakers at this event was Jack Canfield, the other co-author on the Chicken Soup for the Soul books. And Jack has this book called The Success Principles that I have on my shelf. He's really studied what does it take to be successful. And the very first success principle says that I will take 100% responsibility for my own success. Now, none of us want to take 100% responsibility. We want somebody else to do it. We want some editor or some publisher, please, somebody other than us. Right. But I decided during this event that I was going to take 100% responsibility for my own success. So I started to blog. Now, they say, I found an article about a year ago that said there's over 600 million blogs out there. So there's a lot of blogs. But I started blogging every week. And I've been doing this since 2004. My blog has over 1,700 entries in it. And so I found this article about a year ago of the top 27 content producers. I had Seth Godin, Ryan Holiday, people like that. And and my name was in that article because of the volume of stuff that I've done. And Jack Canfield during this conference talked about how they really searched for finding a publisher for those Chicken Soup for the Soul books. People forget that they were rejected over 160 times. That's a lot of times to be rejected, but they finally found a publisher in Florida to publish the first Chicken Soup for the Soul book. And they told their publisher they were going to sell 1 million books in the first year. Well, their publisher laughed at them. They'd never sold 1 million copies of anything at that point. But it took them 1.5 years to sell 1 million books. And the way they did it, I think, is something that every author can mirror. They practiced what they call the rule of 5. They got up every day and they did 5 things to be telling people about their book. They did a podcast, a radio show, a magazine article, a live event, a newspaper article, something every day to be telling people about their book. And I think that's one of the keys, really, is that we as authors have to be doing something, because if not, people aren't going to find out about us.
What we do with my book is we, on a daily basis, are doing numerous things. We not only wrote the book, which meant we had to edit it and go through all of that. And we had our artists internally come up with great covers for it, and we chose which cover. All of that's great. We also got blurbs. We shared the book with a number of people who were well-known people or worked at well-known companies. And we said, will you please read this and give us a quote? And surprisingly, virtually everybody said yes, which was wonderful. And we got very good quotes. So that armed us with that. But we also realized, and this is so important, that's just the beginning. That book is 30, 40, 50, 60,000 words. And it's just going to sit there unless you do something. So we created a podcast called Difference Talks, which is this podcast. Another thing we did was I went on the podcast circuit. I have been on over 100 podcasts in the last year talking about differentiation, talking about rallying your teams around something that's exciting. So they go out there as an army ready to fight the battles. Well, in addition to that, we created a newsletter that goes out twice a month to thousands of people, and it's called Why to Wow. Well, it's based on principles shared in our book.
That's fantastic. Yeah. The great promoter, P.T. Barnum, said years ago, without promotion, something terrible happens. Nothing.
We have a very, very lofty goal, and that is we want to inspire 1 million people with the message from our book. And we want to inspire them worldwide. So that has brought us the University of Cambridge. You know, Cambridge University in England invited me to be on their podcast. Wow. Stanford has asked for my book. Columbia University has asked for my book. I just spoke to 3 classes at Central Michigan University via Zoom and talked to the class. And a number of them responded to me and asked for copies of the book. It's a way to share your message. So I'll turn it back to you. What can people do?
You sent one to me, Barry. There it is.
I sent one to you. Well, you sent me 2 copies of your book. We're not trying to sell a copy of books. What we're trying to sell is our beliefs. We're trying to spread what we feel is important. So I'll go back to you, Terry. What else can our audience do to make a book a successful reality?
I always encourage authors to build their presence in the marketplace on their own website, their own blog, their own newsletter, something that they can control, because so much of the publishing process is nothing that we can control. And you're exactly right. We have to try a lot of different things. There is no best-selling formula that I know of, but there are best-selling practices. And from what you just said there, it sounds like to me you're following a lot of those practices, which is really what pays off, I think, in the long run.
Well, my goal for this podcast is that some of our friends that are watching or listening say, okay, I'm going to write my book. I'm going to do it. And not only am I going to do it, I'm going to commit to promoting it. So we'll be right back on Difference Talks.
Difference Talks is a LaBov production. Our focus is differentiation, and we believe it's more important than ever to differentiate your brand and experience. Contact us at LaBov.com for a conversation. We'd love to connect with you.
Welcome back, everybody, to Difference Talks with Terry Whalin. He is a guru about books, not only writing them, editing them, but also promoting them. So, Terry, give me a secret weapon in promoting your book. How do you do it?
Well, one of the weapons that few people think about would be the whole magazine area, to write for magazines. If your book sells 5,000 copies during the lifetime of the book, that's a good number. Mm-hmm. And books are long. I mean, it takes a lot of work to write 40, 50, 60,000 words into a book. Magazine articles are short. In general, they're maybe 1,200, 1,500 words. And with a magazine article, it's very easy to reach 100,000, 200,000, 500,000 people with your magazine work. I wonder how in the world they can write a book. They don't have time to. Well, maybe they have time to write that 1,200 word magazine article and then write a number of those, and they can become your book.
So that's great. The other thing I have seen work really well, and this is what my company's doing with my book, is we're taking excerpts, topics from my book, and we're applying them, whether it's to, let's say, a magazine or whether it's to our own newsletter. So one way or another, you can utilize either the content you have and repurpose it from your book, or you can use it to inspire your book.
People wonder how in the world I've written more than 60 books for traditional publishers. And the answer is pretty simple. I write it one book at a time, so one paragraph at a time. I spend a lot of time on these things in order to get them done, but it doesn't happen just in my head. I have to actually put my fingers on the keyboard, move them around, and for something to happen.
Terry, share a success story that really resonates with you that could help our audience, get off the dime and say, okay, I'm going for it.
It's that discipline and perseverance of writing on a regular basis over and over. I mean, one of my friends is Bill Myers. I've interviewed more than 150 best-selling authors over the years, and Bill and I were having breakfast at a very busy convention. I had my whole schedule lined out. I wasn't going to be doing any writing that day. And Bill looked at me and he said, Terry, here's how I get it done. And he held up his hand like this, 5. And I'm like, what is that, Bill? Is that the 5-finger prayer? I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. He said, no, Terry, nothing to do with prayer. 5 pages a day. And he said, I'm going to write my 5 pages today. Are you? And I said, no, I'm not going to write any pages today. I'm busy doing all kinds of other stuff. But he was committed to writing his 5 pages a day. And that's part of the discipline and perseverance that all of us as writers, if we're really going to be successful, are under to be able to achieve that.
Well, this podcast, we've talked about 5 2 different times. So the first time 5 was do 5 things to promote your book every day after it's written. So then we have to back up to the first rule of 5, which is write 5 pages and write them. And I'll have to tell you, when I wrote my book, I wrote it mostly on airplane flights from Indiana to Arizona and back, the amount of focus I had in the 2.5 to 3.5 hour flight was really therapeutic for me. I got away, I did it, I wrote a lot, but I also have to say, once I wrote it and put it away, when I looked at it a few days later, I had a lot of changes, but there were things in there that I, at the moment when I was typing them, I didn't think were that good, but boy, they looked a lot better a couple days later.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That putting it away for a few days and then returning to it is another great part of the process. And people should be reasonable with themselves too. Maybe they can't write 5 pages a day. Maybe they can write 2 pages a day or whatever, a half page a day, whatever it is. But do something and do it consistently. And if you do that suddenly it'll end up being a work that you can actually publish at the end of the day.
You mentioned Seth Godin, who is a world famous author. I think it's 19 top selling books worldwide, if not 20, somewhere in there. We had Seth on our podcast, and one thing he shared was fascinating, and that is every day he writes his blog. And a lot of these blogs will turn into his books and vice versa. A lot of times he's got the new book out and he's writing blogs based on that. And he said something fascinating. Every single day he writes his blog. And then he goes out kayaking and enjoying the beauty of the Hudson River and everything else. He comes back in and he looks at what he wrote. And this was a breakthrough for me because I thought this was really interesting. Seth looks at it and he says, okay, is this the work of Seth Godin, the author? Or is this just some other guy named Seth Godin who likes to go out and kayak? And he said every once in a while, because he does this every day, everyone, he'll go, this isn't Seth Godin, the author. I'm going to throw this out. That's not who I am. That's not my message. I'm going to write something else. I thought it was so fascinating because he kind of split his brain into 2 people. I'm not saying we should do that, but it worked for him. He writes, he gives himself free rein to write what's on his mind, everybody, but he gives himself the ability to go, okay, hold on. I just looked at this. I wrote it hours ago. It's not it. I'm going to do something different. We have to give ourselves license to do that.
One of the reasons that I wrote this 10 Publishing Myths book is because I wanted authors to see that there were practical things that they could be doing, no matter what their publisher does, to help them be successful with their book. And so every chapter in this book, I have what I call a myth buster action. And so that's a practical thing, an action that everybody reading this can actually take. And I want people to be able to get this book and get it in their hands inexpensively. So what I did, I set up this website. So if people go to publishingoffer.com, just publishingoffer.com, they can get this book for $10, along with over $200 worth of bonuses. And I'll ship it. That includes the shipping. I'll ship the physical book to them, because there's just a lot of misconceptions that people have about what's going to happen with their book. And I tried to give them practical information about how to walk in a different way.
How would you like to end today with a message for folks out there who are contemplating whether or not to write a book, and maybe they need a little bit of help or inspiration? I've
been in some of the top literary agencies and publishers in New York City, and I visited with these people. And, as authors, we get ghosted a lot when we pitch. Maybe nobody responds, or we get this little form rejection letter back. We don't know if anybody even read our pitch at the end of the day. But what I'd tell you from listening to these people is that they're all actively looking for that diamond in the rough out there that can become a bestseller. They're asking me, Terry, where's the next best-selling nonfiction book? Where's the next best-selling novel? And so Whether they respond to you or not, realize that all of us are actively looking for that. And if you pitch something that's that diamond in the rough, we want to reach out to you and publish your book.
Check out what Terry's offering. It's so important that if we really have this passion inside, that we let it out. So until next time, thank you, Terry. And I want everyone to know that we at Difference Talks appreciate you listening and or watching. Take care.
Thank you for joining us on Difference Talks. All of us at LaBov are proud to celebrate great people with inspiring messages. Difference Talks was created, produced, engineered, and performed by the LaBov team. Even the music is original. Contact us at LaBov.com to learn how to differentiate your brand and give your team a sense of significance and meaning.